In this lesson, we're talking about complementary and supplementary angles. Angles can be classified in many ways based on their measurements. Feel free to take notes as we go along. The protractor shows the measure of many different angles. Use the diagram to answer the questions below. The first one says, what is the measure of angle CFE? So we're going to go to CFE to find the measure of angle CFE, which is this larger angle here that's made up by the two smaller angles. So if we look on our protractor, we can see that C is at 100 degrees and E is at 180 degrees. So that means the difference between the two is 80. So therefore, angle CFE has to be 80 degrees. For section 2, what is the measure of angle AFC? So if we go to A and then F and then C to find the measure of angle AFC, which is this larger angle here. So we can see that A is at 0 degrees and C, we've already discovered, is at 100 degrees. So the difference between the two is 100, so that means that this angle is at 0 degrees. So feel free to pause the video so that you can make sure you understand, or to replay as necessary. Next, we're talking about angle relationships. So types of angles, and I've already started filling this in. An acute angle is an angle that measures less than 90 degrees. So I've drawn a picture of an angle that would be smaller than 90 degrees and given you a few examples, such as 45 degrees, 15 degrees, 87 degrees, anything that is smaller than 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is an angle that measures between 90 and 180 degrees. So an obtuse angle might be an angle that looks like that, that's just a little bit bigger than 90, or it might be one that's much bigger than 90. We might see something like that. So an obtuse angle could be something that's 92 degrees, or 108 degrees, or 153 degrees, anything that's in between 90 and 180 degrees. Moving on to a right angle. A right angle is an angle that measures exactly 90 degrees. So it's truly going to be a right angle. And we see this normally signified with a little box right here that tells us it's a right angle. So examples would be 90 degrees only. Has to be 90 degrees to be a right angle. A straight angle is an angle that measures exactly 180 degrees. So we also call that a straight line. Okay, so a straight line, straight angle is 180 degrees. Then we're going to talk about relationships of angles for a little bit, and we're talking about two kinds, complementary and supplementary. Complementary angles, it's a pair of angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. And sum means we add. So that means when we add them together, we get 90 degrees. So I might have a situation like this. And these two angles together make 90 degrees. Okay, so that might be something that's 35 degrees and 45 degrees. And when you add them together, they total 90 degrees. And I'm sorry, I just realized that that totals 80. So we'll say that if it was 35 and 55, then they would total 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, again, it's a pair of angles that have a sum of 180 degrees. So that means when you add them together, they make a straight angle. So that could be like an angle that maybe measures 65 degrees and 115 degrees, and that's going to give you 180 degrees. Okay, remember that you can pause and replay to make sure that you have this so that as we move on and build on it, you've understood what's happening. Okay, so then we're going to use our knowledge of writing equations to find missing angle measures, because if we don't have a protractor, we can still find the angle measures. So by writing and solving equations, we can determine the missing angle measures in various angle relationships. So that's using the complementary and the supplementary relationship. So number one, we're going to use the fact that these lie on a straight line, which means they total 180 degrees. So that means that the 136 degree angle plus whatever x is has to total 180 degrees. And we know that to solve equations, we would go ahead and subtract here to do the inverse operation and subtract the other side. And we would find that x is 44 degrees. On number two, we see that these make a right angle when they're combined, which means that they total 90 degrees. So they are complementary because they total 90 degrees. So x plus 74 equals 90. And again, we would subtract the 74 to get rid of it. And x is 16. So that means that this is 16 degrees. So again, remember that you can pause the video, rewind, make sure that you really understand what's happening. And we're going to practice a little bit further with using equations to find the measures. On number three, it says the measure of angle 1 is 42.8 degrees. They want us to find the measure of angle 2. So part A says write an equation. We see that these two angles together make a right angle. So that means they're complementary. They total 90 degrees. So the angle that measures 42.8 plus angle 2 equals 90 degrees. So when I subtract the 42.8 from both sides, I get that angle 2 measures 47 3/10 of a degree. And I know this because angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. Because they total 90 degrees. You would want to write something like that for your justification. On number 4, the measure of angle 2 is 65 6/10 degrees. We have to find the measure of angle 1. Because these lie on a straight line, or that's a straight angle, they total 180 degrees. Therefore, they're supplementary. So angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180 degrees. So I can subtract the 65.6 from both sides, and I get that angle 1 is, and you can subtract off to the side if you need to. Remember to line up your decimals. 65.6. Remember how to set those up. You subtract like that, or you can plug it in your calculator. Okay. and you would get 14.4 degrees. So again, we're justifying. How do we know? And we know that because angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. So they, or their sum, or whatever you like on the wording, total 180 degrees. Okay. And we have a little bit further to go, so make sure you're understanding where we are. Okay, lastly, 5 and 6, draw a picture to represent the situation below, then write an equation and solve. So on number 5, two angles are complementary. That is important because that means they total 90 degrees. One of the angles measures 15 degrees. What is the measure of the second angle? So we can draw a picture. If they're complementary, that means they total 90 degrees. Okay. And then it says one angle is 15 degrees and the other angle we don't know. So that means that this angle is 15 degrees and this angle we don't know, or vice versa, however you want to draw that. So then it says we need to write an equation and solve. So we would say 15 plus x equals 90 degrees. Subtract 15 from both sides, and x is 75 degrees. And number 6, angle ABE, and DBE are supplementary, so they make a straight line. Okay. And it says the measure of ABE is 61 degrees. Okay. So ABE is 61. And they want us to find the measure of DBE. So that's what we're looking for, is the measure of DBE. So we know that because they lie on a straight line, they total 180 degrees. So the measure of the angle that we do not know plus the measure of the other angle, which is 61 degrees, equals 180. And when we subtract 61 from both sides to undo that operation, x equals 119 degrees. So remember to feel free to rewind and rewatch and take notes as you need to. Make sure you take a minute to summarize your understanding from the lesson and see me if you have questions.